Hello everyone and welcome back to the Horrido Campaign for the Focke-Wulf 190 Anton in DCS World, and welcome to Mission 10, where the briefing of this one is we have just been told that the Fat One, Reichsmarschall Goering, has decided to give us a visit, and we are required to give him an air escort to the airfield. Only slight caveat there is he's leaving in 5 minutes. So we need to be up in the air by then, which, if you know the startup of the Anton, is not something that's going to happen. And so, yeah, let's jump in and see how this insanity goes. Now, the first issue that happened on this one is I think I accidentally broke the scripting on this mission, unfortunately. See, from where we start, normally what we do is we taxi to this one particular runway strip, which is currently on the left from my starting position this time. But when I looked left, there was a Ju-88 sat there and didn't seem to be moving. So I thought, right, okay, it's kind of had this before where some of the roads have been blocked, especially with all of these destroyed vehicles around. Looking at the state, I decided, right, no, not going to go that way then. I'm going to turn right, bit of a taxi, but taxi all the way down to another end of the cross runway, and take off there. I decided that would be fine since the Anton does need some time for its engine to warm up before you can take off, otherwise you get into overheating or underheating issues as with the P-47. And so I thought that'd be fine, just heat it up on the taxi and take off. Unfortunately, I am pretty sure you were meant to turn left there, get in behind the Ju-88, and then I'm assuming something was supposed to happen there and eventually the backlog gets cleared. Because after taking off, my wing decided to taxi towards the Ju-88 and then just stop behind it, and they never moved. It wasn't resolved, they stayed there for the entirety of the mission, so unfortunately instead of the 4-ship being up, it's just me for the rest of the mission. And then to make matters worse, as I'm circling waiting for them to do something, I get this alert.
Mustangs, sie kommen aus dem Norden. Verdammt, ab in die Luft und Angriff.
3, 2, 1, go. So yeah, Mustangs coming from the north, so I fly around trying to look for these things, realising that I don't have the cover that I'm supposed to at this point. Do then see tracer fire coming in over the airfield, and so although I can't spot plane, the tracer fire does nicely highlight roughly where it is. So dive in, heading into that area, trying to find it. My lovely wing are still stuck behind the Junkers, so they are not going to be any help. See a couple more tracer bullets flying in the distance, so head towards a rough location. See a few more, that's assuring me that there's something there, and then do spot this plane. And unfortunately here we run into the second trouble on this particular mission, and that is, for whatever reason, I think just the time of day, the canopy reflections are awful here. This is still an issue with the Anton, even on this modded version, which does make the canopy reflections better, as in makes them less insane. I still end up losing track of targets a lot. In fact, we'll see a little bit later, I do consider just ejecting my canopy in order to get a little bit of a better view on this, which is not an ideal situation. Either way here, this Mustang hasn't reacted to me. I'm trying to stay low. Don't know exactly how spotting with AI and DCS works, but I know with players, it definitely staying on their low 6 makes it really awkward for anyone to see you, and so that's all I'm trying to do here. Fortunately, we're flying west here. This is in the evening, and so the glare from the sun is awful. See him there going in low level. I peel off a few shots. Don't really know how best to aim here, and so rather mess that one up. Firing again, peeling off a few shots. just not quite getting the drop right here. I think I'm not aiming up enough. See, my bullets are going in front of him. Do get a tiny little clip there. He then belatedly reacts to getting hit. He goes into a climb, which I'm actually okay with because it does reduce the distance between us, at least at first. Waiting there until the sun is no longer completely obscuring my targeting reticule, and then trying to put in some rounds on him. Once again, really struggling here with leading a Mustang, not really sure where I should be aiming. Do get a good decent few hits on his wing there, aiming a little bit too much to the left here. Another few hits and then he straightens out, and there he goes. Nice fire there, his canopy ejects immediately, and so he is bailing. That is one of them out. And circle for a little bit, but before long the AAA actually manages to get the killing blow on the other, and so that is this little section cleared up for now. So I get prompted to check in with our control center and head towards our target.
Wieso dauert es so lange? Der Reichsmarschall ist wütend. Der Konvoi hat Lilchschiff verlassen. Momentan beschützt von ein paar 101 vom Jagdgeschwader 2. Sie haben soeben die brennende Fabrik bei Amantier passiert. Entdeckt sie und entlastet diese Eskorte. Wir wurden von einigen Mustangs aufgehalten. Wir halten Ausschau nach dem Konvoi.
So we get told off for how dare we be late, and then sent off towards our rendezvous. Unfortunately we've missed it, he's already left, but he is just passing by the burning factory, so at least that makes navigation nice and easy. Just have to head towards this smokestack and look out for moving vehicles. And despite the awful glare, I do manage to spot 3 vehicles moving just a little bit near that factory. And so call that in that I have found Göring and his kind of convoy here.
Hier spricht Falke. Wir sind auf Position über dem Konvoi. Falke, hier Adler. Das wird verdammt nochmal Zeit. Gerade wohl mit Schnapstanken beschäftigt, während wir eure Arbeit erledigt haben. Na gut, Männer. Lasst uns heimkehren. Hier spricht Falke 2. Feindflugzeuge aus Westen.
So it's just a case of following the convoy along, keeping an eye on them, try not to lose them in the glare, and then, of course, something else goes wrong.
Moskitos! Verdammt! Scheint so, dass der französische Untergrund von den Fahrzeugen erfahren und sie an die Alliierten gemeldet hat.
So I orbit around a little bit looking for these things. You see though, the glare is awful. I can barely see anything whenever looking directly east or west. Just trying to keep an eye on where the convoy is. And then spot these 2 Mustangs. Thankfully they're not making a attack run on the convoy, which would have been really bad. Instead they are making an attack run on me, which isn't awesome. They do get an AI shout out there that the AI has spotted the bandit, which makes me hopeful that one has taken off, so I do give them the order to engage. Turns out we're still on the ground. We're just near enough to the airbase at this point that they can spot these 2 from the airbase. So, not too useful. Here, on my own, at least it's only against a pair of mosquitoes, which at least I have some hope against, rather than Mustangs, which, as we saw, I really struggle with. Downside is I chewed up through quite a lot of my ammo against the Mustang, and mosquitoes can take a fair bit. They're not well armoured, being made mostly of wood, but they do have a lot of empty space, so quite often you hit them on that central fuselage, it just won't do anything. Either way, I do end up in a pretty decent position here. I decide to try and slot in on the rear of the two, since that way I'm not putting myself and exposing myself to his fire when I go in on his front. Do get a good hit, but there again, centre fuselage hit tends not to do much against a Mosquito. But there, second little burst, get a decent fire and decide, right, that's enough. He is likely going down at that point. Fires in DCS tend to be fatal. Even if they go out, the amount of damage it will do by the time it goes out means that he's probably RTB, so he's not a threat. What I am more concerned about is where the other one went, since I've completely lost eyes on him. Do get a bit worried there. See, the fire seems to have gone out, but it seems to have gone out by a chunk of the plane falling off. And so decide that, well, I need to continue to engage this other Mosquito, and do get the alert there. The first Mosquito has bailed at this point, so something big fell off the plane. Even though it was the burning part, the crew decided to bail at that point. Problem now is I am engaged by this Mosquito, and whereas before I had a pretty decent position after forcing the initial overshoot, here I am not in a great way. The other Mosquito is still in the air at this point. The crew have bailed, but it does some aerobatic loops for a bit, as it's just dead stick, but eventually does come down. Get a nice little look there, my nice wingmen sitting on the ground having their tea have spotted my kill. You can see here I am struggling. The Mosquito is managing to turn within my turning circle, and at this point I was hoping that I could outturn this, but you can see I'm definitely struggling here. Decide that I should shut my intakes a little bit, not fully, because I am really pushing the engine here. The engine is on absolute full, just trying to keep up my energy here. And here we get a report of an explosion, which unfortunately is nothing that I can do anything about. So yeah, I get orders there to strafe the factory complex that shot at the convoy, but I had no eyes on that explosion, no idea where it is, lost sight of the convoy completely here, and I'm a little bit busy. Probably would have been a lot easier if I did have my wing here to deal with the whole situation of the Mosquito. As it is, I'm just fighting a defensive fight here. Do manage to force the overshoot, but wing stall unfortunately a little bit there, which really costs me my energy and means that although he overshoots with enough energy that he just claims away. So I've regained position here, I'm on his 6, but he is faster than me and turning harder than me, and so there really isn't much that I can do. Briefly opened the comms menu there just because I wanted to check if there was anything in the F10 menu that might be to do with highlighting where I'm supposed to strafe, since I'm kind of in a better situation here, so I would go in, strafe the ground target if I had any idea where it was. Right now I don't particularly know where I am. Turns out we're right next to the airfield. I will realise that after the fight. Currently fighting directly above where the two parachutes went, so the first Mosquito crew did completely bail, and so they're absolutely fine. But here I'm just really struggling, trying to get around on this Mosquito, and as you can see, it is not a fight that I am winning. I'm kind of struggling with other ideas here. Once again, shut the engine cowlings even more, reduce my drag even more, try and get whatever I can in terms of speed. But we can see here I'm definitely losing this fight. All the signs are there. He is drifting backwards on my canopy, and at the same time his nose is starting to come around to me. Bright side, I have completely distracted this guy, so he's not done any attacks on the convoy, and so the convoy is making its way towards the airfield. At this point I decide to change tactics. I decide, right, I'm not going to win the turn fight, really shouldn't have been trying that. I try and go for the overshoot here, so trying to force him to go past me. He obliges. Unfortunately, as I try and whip around there, I wing stall and end up here. Incredibly bad situation, heading straight for the ground, not enough energy, barely make it over the trees there. If one of those trees was in a slightly different position, I would have binned it there. So really risky manoeuvre there, just pulled a little bit too hard while trying to keep up with him, and unfortunately in the Anton, if you just pull that tiny bit too hard, it wing stalls at the drop of a hat and will just bleed you of all the speed in just a moment. So trying to recover this here. I'm back in the air at least, which I'm happy with. But once again we're in this bad situation. I am not managing to rate around on him. I am not managing to particularly gain anything in this fight. My speed is really suffering here. And so once again realise that no, not going to make this. I try to deploy my flaps to see if that can give me a little bit of an edge, but all it does is bleed me of speed more than anything there. And so once again, really struggling here. See, the plane is not very happy with me, right on that bleeding edge of the wing stall. Decide that no, this isn't going to work. Once again, straighten it out. Try and turn in such a way that I can actually see, because once again, canopy glare is awful. At this point, kind of lost sight of him. Do re-establish eyes on him, mostly because he is very much following me. Fortunately this time he is trying to put bullets in me, and I do need to be careful here. The Anton can take a beating, but the Mustang can really put out a beating. It has some seriously heavy firepower, and unfortunately there he does clip me. My plane isn't on fire, which is good. Seems to be handling okay. Barely dodged that, as I'm trying to keep my nose low enough to catch him as he crosses. He unfortunately turns even harder than I anticipated, and so I can't quite get my nose on target here. I'm desperately trying to drop the nose, but it just doesn't want to. Have it trimmed a little bit too far nose up there, and so he passes under me. So yeah, I'm clear to land now, which is great if I wasn't currently trying to fight for my life. Unfortunately there you can see that by the time I managed to get my nose on him, he is once again zipped away, which is, again, not really ideal. Do check there and realise that, my temperature gauge is showing 0, which isn't good. So that hit has damaged something. I now have no idea what my engine temperature is, and so end up fully opening the cowling flaps just to play it a little bit safe here. I don't want to bake the engine. The engine's already sounding a little bit funny. And then take another hit there. That time was on the nose. And after that, the engine does not behave very nicely for the rest of the flight. do manage to avoid him getting a kill there. Do get him to overshoot. Might be able to see the ATA gauge as being a little bit wonky here. I do try and clip off a few shots. Again, can't see the actual aiming cursor in the sun. And you can see here the plane's starting to shake very heavily. What I don't realise at this stage that I will find on landing is I have lost a rather large chunk of the front of my aircraft. On the bright side, I do manage to clip him with a few shots, which does make me feel happy. Few hits there on his rudder. That is at least going to lower his manoeuvrability. Hopefully even things out a bit. We are now at least both a little bit damaged. No, my plane's definitely in the worst state here. I'm pretty sure I have lost one of the pistons, which is why it is kind of wiggling about so much. It is so uneven. I've also lost a lot of my gauges, so I don't exactly know how the engine is holding. Doing my best just to try and stay on him here, hoping that that damage to his rudder means that I can keep up with them. You can see kind of managing, but definitely not the kind of state I want to be in, and I'm wondering how long the engine is going to keep up at this stage. Very much planning that, well, if the worst comes to the worst, the engine dies, I'm in friendly territory, so I can just do my best to soft land it. But may as well do my best to take down this mosquito. Maybe then at least the good Race Marshal will not have me shot. And see here, once again though, airspeed dropping as I'm trying to maintain this turn. It's dipping below 200 there. And decide that actually no, this is being silly. I've lost a lot of thrust. Getting nowhere near the amount of thrust that I used to be able to. And so I'm not able to recover as easily. And see here, I'm struggling to maintain altitude. So I decided, okay, no, I'm not going to manage. What I was doing there, I need to stabilise, I need to gain some altitude back. He is straightened out a little bit and is extending away. I do actually here try and call in for navigation assistance from the airfield, because at this point I just want to make it home. Unfortunately I get nothing back, which highlights something else that went wrong. I have lost my radio, which unfortunately means I can't radio in for navigation assistance to know which direction I need to be heading in. And while I was straightening out there, the mosquito is coming back. And me being a nice slow target here, I am feeling very, very vulnerable. The advantage of being so slow is it's very easy for him to overshoot. Do you see there, I have taken a decent chunk of his rudder and his elevator off, but he's definitely still flying. Once again, try and make it around, try and hope to get the best out of this intercept that I possibly can, or this overshoot that I possibly can. Ending up being a really, really long extended dogfight here. Probably one of the longest I've had in DCS. Do see shots coming up, which do fill me with hope. Turns out we are actually right next to the friendly airfield. It's just off my right wing here. Might not be able to see it with all the glare and so on, but it's right there. Which again does make me relieved. This means I might be able to bring it back, and if nothing else, a lucky ground AAA hit could absolutely turn this fight around. He also does seem to be struggling a bit here. I think he might be trying to avoid the AAA on the ground, and he's bleeding energy as he does so, which is allowing me to catch up here, allowing me to slot on his 6. really pushing the engine here. I don't care if my engine burns out, just giving it everything it can get. Get one good burst and see a nice big radiator leak there. He disappears off to the side, but at least I know that I have hit him badly. It was a good radiator leak followed by the leak stopping, which is a good indication you've just blown his coolant completely off. And then as he turns, he goes into this dive, and he doesn't quite recover from it. So there we go, second mosquito down, mission accomplished. Oh dear, that was a hard fight. And nicely, as it just so happened, we had drifted pretty much directly next to the airfield, so even without the radio, I could actually find the bloody thing. And so I go in for a landing, do a very rough landing, do pull in really hard, go in really quite fast, so I just want to get it down at this point. Partly I'm just exhausted with having such a long extended flight, and partly the engine is not going to last much longer. So do come in, do make a landing, bit of a bounce, but hey ho, go in, past my flight who are still nice and lovely, lined up behind the Junkers 88 there that is still blocking them from taking off. Get down, stop the plane just in time to be absolutely laid into by one very unhappy fat field marshal here.
Wer ist dieser Anführer dieses Clown-Zirkus? Was glaubst du, wer sie sind? Ihr Idioten, lasst mich 20 Minuten warten. Die JG2 musste kommen und ihre Aufgabe machen. Schauen Sie sich um. Was ist das für ein Durcheinander? Das ist Sabotage, Verrat. Sie haben sich mit Galant verschworen, um mich zu töten zu lassen. Jetzt verstehe ich. Ich werde sie alle erschießen lassen. Alle von euch. Ah.
So yeah, he's not best pleased, but I think I did damn well considering I only took off on my own. I really quite enjoyed that. I definitely could have restarted it and did the correct way of turning left. I decided just to stick with it since I was managing. Not really too upset about that kind of bug in the scripting. This is the first time that I've really encountered a bug in the scripting in this entire campaign, and it ended up with a really interesting session, so I'm not going to hold it against the campaign at all. Really did enjoy that. 2 mosquitoes down, 1 Mustang down, me alive. I'm taking that as a win for accidentally taking off on my own. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed that, and hope to catch you for the next one. Till then, remember to be kind to yourselves and everyone else. Cheers.